we now have the opportunity to hear from a true innovator from Silicon Valley who's working in this aging space. It's my great pleasure to give you Mr. Stephen Johnston, Aging 2.0.
Laura, and thank you, Randy, and thank you, everybody who put this fantastic event together. Yes, I am another Brit. I have spent, however, the last 5 years in Silicon Valley really focused on the question of why Silicon Valley hasn't really been that focused on the topic of aging and longevity. It started for me after my MBA when I went off to work in mobile technology and was doing the things that an MBA technologist business person does. And then I actually had a fascinating opportunity, a really life-changing experience working with a family that had, unfortunately, the father got dementia. And I spent a couple of years working with them and realized the family said to me, where are the innovators? Where are the startups? Where are the Silicon Valley cool kids working on improving the quality of life for people like us, for people with dementia, for people who are struggling in caregiving for those with dementia? And I realized I was somewhat embarrassed. I had not even thought about this topic until 6, 7 years ago, and I realized that many of my colleagues and friends hadn't either. And the good news is that there's now a lot more people from Silicon Valley to countries around the world who are really focused on this. And just the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about three things. First, some of the topics that we've identified as key priorities that are really coalescing the innovation and the business community together, what we're calling the grand challenges. We're going to dive in just very quickly on a couple, mobility and engagement, and then give a brief view into where we see things coming next. I like starting with this slide. We've heard a lot about demographics and the data, and we have some of the world experts here with you today. One of the connections that I always find interesting is the speed of which the longevity revolution is happening. So if you might not be able to see this graph in great detail, but essentially the first graph there at the beginning shows France. The line goes up from 7% of its population going to 14%. It took France 120 years to make that shift. And what we're seeing now is that South Korea, China, Thailand, and Brazil and others are moving, their populations are moving so much quicker into this sort of aging society. Here in Florida, we have about 20% of the population over 65. In Collier County, it's 29% in Naples. And I think apparently in Sumter County, it's 55%. And so there's a really interesting shift that we've got this older population, but we also need to think at the speed of which things are happening are quite incredible. This is a global perspective, and Aging 2.0 as an organization, me and my co-founder, Katie Feig, decided to create this global initiative to co-opt people at the local level. And the good news is that all of you will be having the opportunity to get engaged and to engage with the local chapters and to have essentially be part of a global social movement. We've created this thing with over 50 chapters, I think 54 as of today, 20 countries, volunteers who are trying to connect and build the bridge between the technologists and the startup guys and the cool kids, the aging and senior industry, and the needs and the opportunities, and put them together. The good thing, we've got some wonderful corporate partners who are helping AARP, Procter & Gamble, and some of the big companies are starting to get this. And what we've focused now in the last few months is come out with these 8 grand challenges. They are topics that really unite the innovators, the technologists, and the aging and care industry, and really ask older people what they care most about. I did it myself back in 2011. I came down to Boca Raton. I had coffee in one hand and bagels in the other, and I went and had conversations with older people of what they cared about. And this conversation has been going on for many years. And the summary that we came up with, there's so many things that we could focus on. But these 8, you can find more if you go to aging2.com/grand-challenges/report. We've just put out a report that goes into great detail, so I don't have time to spend a lot of time, but very briefly, the 8 topics. Engagement and purpose, we've been hearing a lot about today. Financial wellness, making sure people have the financial resources. Mobility and movement, daily living and lifestyle, caregiving, care coordination, brain health, and end of life. The good thing is there's a lot of innovators now working on these topics, coming up with ideas, having conversations with older people and with the industry partners to see what they can do to improve the quality of life in each of these topic areas. I'm just going to show a very quick video, 2 minutes of this wonderful video that I recommend you all watch, which just give a sense of this is not an individual app or individual solution. This is a very holistic approach. And this video was put out by Cable Labs. It's called The Near Future. It just gives a sense of what I think our lives could be once the technologists and the industry partner in just a few years to create something rather magical. So if we could play the video, please.
Come on, Cookie. I don't know how you're supposed to feel at 86, but I don't think I feel like I'm 86.
Surprise!
People make my world go round. I fear isolation and being cut off. If I am alone somewhere and I had no one to talk to, no one to share anything with, I bet you I would just dry up and blow away. I call this my smart house. We got sensors in all the rooms. I swallow them. I wear them. Doc knows what's going on with me. I don't have to go to the clinic anymore. I call him up. He's not back in the horse and buggy days.
Looks like you had a pretty active week, huh?
I'm feeling it too. Hey guys, how do you like your ride? Knowing I got eyes on me gives me the confidence to keep me being who I am, doing what I want to do. Frees me up, takes the worry away. I don't have to worry about Paige, my daughter.
Hey, Dad.
Hey kiddo, what's up?
I'm just checking in.
Because I know she's not worried about me.
No, I'm...
She's always busy, work and kids, but she can see exactly how I'm doing.
I love you, Dad.
That she knows how I feel before I do. Cookie has become my buddy,
Time for your pill, Jim.
my wingman. Hey, Cookie, what time is that car going to be here?
2 minutes. It's cold out. Might want to bring a coat.
It's like he has a brain. Now, what are you doing, Cookie?
It's a quick
I have
procedure.
come to
Help yourself.
rely on him.
No time.
I know I can trust him, and he's got my back. I lost Ellen, my wife, 10 years ago. So many good times, so many memories. Losing her was really tough. If we had had for her then what we have for me now, she would have been in a much better place. I miss her so much.
Unfortunately, we have to stop on the low note. The good news is that it gets happier. For the next 3 minutes of that video that we don't have time to watch, go online and watch it. It's really about connection. As you can see, and a nod to Keith earlier in the day, connection, social engagement can be enabled by things like AR and VR. And later on in the video, it shows some other ways in which his life is coming together. But this just shows that some of the technologies there already here. Some of them are just sort of around the corner. And it's really an opportunity for all of us to start shaping the world that we want to live in. So in the last couple of minutes, just going to dive very quickly into the two of the topics that really came strongest out. When I was down here in Boca with the coffee and the bagels, it was literally mobility. It was the connection, the transportation issues that were really high, and then the social and engagement pieces that really came up strongly. So in our report that we've just released, we came up with these 4 topic areas: personal mobility, personal safety and communication, community mobility, and fall prevention and safety. Some great little startups that are doing really interesting work. This one's called Seismic. They have this suit that has little microcontrollers and sort of robots and AI algorithms to help you stand up and sit down in a way that's very unobtrusive. It's the next version of those exoskeletons, and it's really stylish, and it's already in the design museum. I'm super excited about self-driving cars, especially for those people living in rural areas. 2/3 of older Americans don't have access to public transport. These little sort of minibuses that go around, the paratransit are not going to be the solution. They can't really scale. But I think what we're seeing are some of these self-driving cars. We're seeing older people in the driving seat, to use a pun, in a way that we haven't seen in for other tech applications. And I think it's going to be really enabling, really helpful. And then on engagement, sort of two big areas here, connections and purpose and learning. Again, lots of startups. We saw New Eyes earlier today. It's one of the startups that we've been tracking. A lot of interesting activities, both in small companies and big companies. A shout out here to the Dutch. They have a wonderful program of intergenerational living where they have sort of 90-year-olds living with college students in Amsterdam who can't afford the rent, but find this is much more than a financial transaction. They create this wonderful co-housing. We've also got some fantastic companies here in the US, Nestle, Silvernest, and Room to Care here in Florida are doing similar things, are connecting people to allow them to live together. Helping both sides financially and also improving their economic their engagement. And then we've got some really interesting work. This is perhaps the traditional how are robots going to help. A lot of progress recently in making robots have much more of a social engagement, social connection. The MIT in particular has come up with some great innovations, intuition robotics, Jibo. This one you see here is intuition robotics. This idea of let's make technology in a way that can sort of get rid of the boring stuff and then create and enhance those social communications, but not just give your grandmother or your parents an iPad and don't visit anymore, but just really enhance the social connection and not replace humanity. So I don't have a lot of time. This is just the last slide looking for the future. A couple of things that we're seeing. One is there's a lot more older people who are getting engaged and should be getting engaged. So I sort of come here with a plea and a request for you to get engaged. This is your future that we're talking about. It's also your kids and your grandkids. But as Laura was saying before, this is an intergenerational conversation. We see innovations like in Newcastle, they have created this 6,000-person consumer panel to engage older people and get their perspectives. We're seeing a lot more focus on ecosystems. We're seeing towns and cities starting to work together. We see the age-friendly movement, age-friendly cities is a really powerful force here. And then we see impact and metrics. So in the health world, we've been seeing a shift over to the metrics and having people focus on really what matters. So we're going to be seeing these things happen over the next year or so. The good news is that Aging 2.0 has local chapters, so encourage all of you to get involved, connect at the aging2.com website, become an investor, create a startup, get engaged with people across all ages, and this is an exciting time to be engaged. And this is really an upbeat story to leave you with. So thank you very much for your time and enjoy the rest of the day. It's been a pleasure.